Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. So this video is inspired by two things, which dovetail together in my head nicely, because I saw my friend Leanna at Leanna's Library recently posted a video that, goes around BookTube, but I liked her version of it, which was series I'm not going to finish. And I've recently read the first book in one of her favorite series that I'm not going to finish, which is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. You'll see more details, I'm sure, of that in other videos, but I'm not going to continue on with it. I can see how other people like it. It's just not for me. But it made me think I should go back through, and I did. I went back through my reading spreadsheets and found all of the series that I have started whilst being on this channel. And I'm just going to run through and tell you the ones that I'm never going to finish. I'm only going to pick ones that I'm definitely never going to read anything else in the series. So I was going to put the Argento Vampire series from Lindsay Sands on here, but there's an off chance that if I just get in the mood for that kind of book, I might pick it up. But I don't have any plans to continue with it, if that makes sense. So I'm only going to talk about ones that I've made a decision I am not continuing, and I'll try to group these into a few different categories as to why. So, can't wait to see the comment section on this one. People trying to persuade me to read things that I'm not going to read, which is the number one way to get me to never do what you want me to do, is to try to talk me into it if I've said I'm not going to do it. But anyway, all that to say, I just think this is interesting, and also just sort of a check-in, if you've been following my channel and you've wondered hey, is she ever going to get back to this? This is my way of telling you hey, no, I'm not going to get back to it. Okay, so maybe we can start with an easier category of ones where the reason I'm not going to keep going is because I don't need another book. I read the first book in the series, it worked as a standalone for me, and I just don't feel the need to keep going. So one example of that is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I did also hear very mixed reviews about the sequel, but even before that, I had kind of decided I really liked how this particular book ended. It's sold as YA. I don't really think it is, but it's with young protagonist. It's a portal fantasy with really dark fairy tale stuff in it. And I really, really like this book a lot. I think I gave this a 4.5 star. I mean, I really enjoyed this book, but I liked how dark the ending was and just don't need more. So I have that one as an example. Another one on that category is The Queen's Rising. I can't remember who the author is, but I felt like I got a full story in this one. I don't need to keep going because I really liked how things wrapped up. This is a YA epic fantasy kind of thing with a twist on a chosen one trope. It's got a lot of kind of French elements brought into it. And yeah, I very much enjoyed the way this one ended. So why would I risk compromising what I enjoyed about this book with a sequel? So I'm not going to. I'm going to just stop where I'm at and be happy with the story I read there. Similarly, The Last NAMSARA by, I think Kristen Cavallaro, something like that. This series was not going to be following one set of people for the whole series. It was going to change, and I wasn't that interested in the next people it was going to be following. So this is another YA high fantasy kind of thing, and I was very satisfied with the way this wrapped up, and I wasn't that curious to keep reading about that world. So I read that one. I enjoyed it. I think it had some mixed reviews, but I personally enjoyed it. And just don't need more. And I guess that is also true for the Shanna Merchant series by Tessa Wegert. The first one is Death in the Family. This came out this year. I gave it 4 stars. I very much enjoyed this, but I enjoyed it because it is an isolated closed circle mystery, which is just my jam. And I wasn't that invested in the main character. And the writing was fine, but not great. So I liked that specific plot and that specific trope combo, but I don't need or want anything more from that character. And then maybe we can go to books where it's kind of a similar situation in the sense that I was reading that first book or that book in that series for a specific reason, and I don't need more of it. So for instance, Remembrance of Earth's Past by Cixin Liu. The book I read was The 3-Body Problem. So I read that last year for the Asian Readathon last May. It's been a year from when I'm filming this. So I read that last year, and I actually quite enjoyed this. It's honestly one of the darkest books, though, that I have ever read. It was so bleak in its outlook of humanity. I mean, literally, it's called Remembrance of Earth's Past, if that tells you anything. It's sci-fi. It's different. It's like a unique book, I think. It's different than anything I've read anyway. And there were things about this I liked, but I read it for that challenge because I wanted to try, like, I know that's sort of a modern classic of sci-fi. So I got what I wanted from it. And I appreciated it, but didn't enjoy it. So I wouldn't keep reading in that series. Another one that I read that I did not enjoy was the 1222, which is in the Han Wilhelmsen series, which is I believe that is a series in Norway, if I'm remembering rightly, and it's like a crime series. And I really did not enjoy the main character, who is the main kind of draw of the series. Really did not like her, didn't enjoy my time reading her story. Also didn't end up especially enjoying the isolated close circle mystery that I picked up in that series to read. 1222, like, it should have been something I really loved. It was there was a train wreck in the middle of a snowstorm and they all get stuck in a hotel and people start dying. I should have loved this, and I just did not enjoy her so much that I ended up not liking the book, and I would definitely not want to read anything else with that character. And then we get into a big category here, which are ones that are fine but didn't intrigue me enough to keep committing, like to keep going to commit to a series. So like, all of these ones I'm going to mention are ones that I would recommend to you to some degree. I guess, like, I don't think it's necessarily quality-wise terrible. They're just ones that didn't stick with me, and I wasn't intrigued to continue going or to commit to a series. So we'll run through these. Something Dark and Holy, the first book in that one is Wicked Saints by Emily Duncan. YA high fantasy. Plot-wise, there were some problems, so not interested. The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi, I think, had a lot of fun world elements to it, but I just felt like it was sort of derivative. It's a YA fantasy as well. Well, this is going to seem like I hate YA fantasy, because the third one is Curse Breakers by Brigid Kemmerer. The first one was A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which I think I'm a minority on that one. I think a lot of people really like that. For me, it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and actually maybe this is another one where I just think it should have been a standalone. The fact that it was the first in a trilogy or whatever really put me off. I think that a really good story could have been told in one book, and I'm annoyed that they didn't go that direction. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. Again, this makes it seem like YA fantasy. I don't. I think that I kind of got on the bandwagon of this one when it came out. I loved the ideas in this so much that I wanted to like the actual book more than I in fact did. And I don't want to keep going. And actually my friend Bethany, who loved that first book, just read the second one and gave it a 1 star. So that makes me even more not interested in reading it. FOUNDRYSIDE by Robert Jackson Bennett. It was good. I gave that 4 stars. I actually quite like that book, but I wasn't drawn in enough to commit to a series on it. So it's a high fantasy adult. I would recommend it to you. I just decided I wasn't ready to commit to that series. The Diviners by Bray, which is a historical urban fantasy YA thing. Again, I think it was good. I think all the point of views didn't serve it well, in my opinion, and therefore I didn't get as invested in it as I wanted to. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked that book fine, but not enough to continue in the series because it just didn't draw me in enough. The Debutante series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes is a YA, again, it just seems like there's a lot of YA. I am more want to try series in YA, I should say, because they tend to be shorter. So I'm more willing to, like, it's not as much of a time commitment to try a series for YA. So that may be part of it, I don't know. But this is a YA contemporary that has like a strong mystery element to it. The first one was called, I think, White Little Lies or Little White Lies, something like that. I love Jennifer Lynn Barnes, y'all be knowing, I love her. But this series, I just don't think I'm going to continue with because it's like set in the Southern Deb scene, and I don't even want to get into it, but I do have some reference for that world, and it didn't quite ring true to me. And two, it was told in a alternating timeline, and in this case that did not work for me. That's always somewhat of a hard sell for me, and in this case it just didn't work. But I can totally see why other people probably would get into that one. Let's see here. I think the rest of these I have a specific negative reason why I'm not continuing. So This is where we transition into the more Debbie Downer piece of the video. The rest of these are ones where I've read one or more books in the series and I have like a specific negative reason. Personally, these books didn't work for me, and therefore I couldn't recommend them to you, even though I know that many of these are popular series that other people very much enjoy. And sorry guys, I think I just changed the angle, so this may look a little different. Sorry, higher pain day, had to adjust my position. Okay, so first of all, the Nice Girls Don't Bite series from Molly Harper. It's interesting because she has a spinoff series from this called the Dead Hollows series, something like that. I really like the spinoff series of this paranormal romance world. The Nice Girls Don't Have Fangs, or the Nice Girls Don't Bite series, whatever it's called, I think she was still developing her voice as a writer, and I think the humor in it just isn't there. It's trying really hard. I think by the time she got to the spinoff series was working much better. And I think her more recent books are also a lot stronger, but this kind of one of her first series, I tried one or two and just, I can't keep going with it because the humor doesn't work for me. The Charlotte Holmes series by Brittany Cavallaro. I know that some people absolutely love this YA mystery series, which is a take on Sherlock Holmes. The writing in this one really bummed me out. There was something about the way, I read the first one, A Study in Charlotte, and there was something about, I felt like the author was always keeping me at a distance with their narrative voice. It felt like I never could get close, like the point of view, I could never get close enough in with the characters to really connect with them. It felt almost like watching, I don't know, it just felt clinical or something. I don't know, there was this weird distance between me and the book in the way that the writing style was set up that I just didn't enjoy. NEVERNIGHT by Jay Kristoff. Again, this was a writing style thing. I liked the footnotes actually, but I'm wondering if he just doesn't agree with me because I DNF'd NEVERNIGHT because I found the writing so grating. I just couldn't get through it. And actually once I saw the reviews for the third book, I was like, I'm glad I bailed on that. I know some people enjoyed it, but for me, I would not have liked it. And actually, I just finished reading Aurora Rising this month and wouldn't continue. This is a YA sci-fi. That NEVERNIGHT is an adult high fantasy. Aurora Rising is a YA sci-fi, and the problem in this is also the voice, because every single point of view character reads like they are trying to be Chandler Bing, and it just doesn't work for me. So this is also a no from me. Maybe Jay Kristoff and I just don't have a future together. I don't know. The Rock Chick series by Kristen Ashley is a romance series, contemporary romance series, where the first book in it was good, and then every book after it was trying to kind of match the tone and plot of that first book and got worse and worse. And I think what really just ended up making me say, like, even though I have already bought 3 or 4 more books in this series, I'm not reading them, is that it just treats the heroine, like every heroine in this series is treated like they are an idiot, they are always wrong, and it's got this kind of just internalized misogyny to it that really, like, one book I could deal with, but once I got to like the 3rd or 4th book, I just couldn't anymore. Then we have A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is a series I know a lot of people really enjoy, but I found to be like aggressively mediocre. I just didn't think there was anything special about this book, and I honestly am kind of befuddled by the love people have for it. I know people do love it though, so I'm not trying to take that away from people. I just don't get it. Big fat don't get it. Kind of similarly, The Passage by Justin Cronin. It's supposed to be this great literary vampire novel, and it was a struggle. It was so bloated. No, man, there's 3 books in that series, and the first one I think was 500 pages and easily could have been made a 300 or 350 page book and been all the better for it. I did that with as a buddy read with my friend Dane at Dane Reads. I think it took him like 3 months to get through it because it was so painful. So yeah, no. Not for me. Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I DNF this one. Again, this is a writing thing. And yeah, as we're going through this, a lot of these ones that I have a really strong negative reaction to, it has a lot to do with the writing. I think that's something I find the longer I'm on BookTube and the more I have to describe why books don't work for me. It's something about a writer's voice that is the number one thing that will get me to DNF something, and the number one thing that will get me to like not give them another chance or give them very few chances, because it's so pervasive in your experience of the book. It's not that the writing has to be like high quality. It's that I have to have an ability to read the sentences fluidly without constantly being taken out of the story or annoyed. And that was my problem with Wheel of Time. The first book is called The Eye of the World. And I literally, like, it took me, I think, 6 or 7 hours to read 100 pages or 150 pages, something like that. And for context, my normal reading speed, like my comfortable reading speed is 60 pages an hour. So it took me 3 or 4 times as long, like let's say 3 times longer to get through that chunk of the book than it would normally take me, because I was just so distracted by the way that the sentence structure in that book worked. It's beloved, and actually the story itself I was into. I read it in college. I'm surprised I was able to get through it in college, but I was doing a reread and I couldn't make it through this time. But I'm into the actual story, so I think there's a big adaptation coming out. That I would watch, but the writing was so painful for me to get through personally. Not as extreme, but I just thought the writing was really mediocre in a series I tried recently called the Kate Burkholder series by Linda Castillo. The writing was just really bland, and the story didn't have enough uniqueness to it for me. It was an Amish serial killer, like a serial killer in Amish country story, which I've read at least a couple of, but one more recently by Kendra Elliott that I thought was just a lot better. And I thought the writing was just, I couldn't connect with the character as much as I wanted to, and the writing felt very blah. Speaking of having problems with characters, I read the first book in the Stella and Lindy mystery series called Murder at Morrington Hall. And it's funny because the main character, Stella, she is fantastic. I loved her. I also liked the inspector she was working with. They were great. Every other character could honestly go like jump in a lake. I hated them so much. They did not deserve to be in the same room with her. And I just was like, I never want to read about those other characters ever again, which is a real shame because I actually very much enjoyed the main character. I'm not going to continue with that one because I could not anymore. And then I guess I have 3 last ones, and I guess all 3 of these have writing issues with them. So yeah, I guess that's our big takeaway, is that the writing voice or the authorial voice is a very important quality for me to commit to a series, because I'm committing to multiple books with that voice in my head. So that's our takeaway for this video. But 3 that I'm not going to continue in. One is the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir. The first one was Gideon the Ninth, which I know was a big hit last year. A lot of people loved it. I think it was up for awards. Like, that's great. For me, I was not into it. For me, it felt very much like style over substance. Like the plot and the characters weren't really working for me. And there was a lot of this very specific stylized voice or sort of like point of view happening that for me, it didn't do enough for me to continue in the book. So I DNF'd this book, and therefore I definitely DNF'd the series. Like I said, a lot of people really love this book. And I'm bummed because I think towards the end, it gets to be an isolated closed circle mystery in that book, but I just couldn't hang with it long enough to get to the part that maybe I would have liked better. Them's the breaks. The space opera series from Catherine M. Valenti. Good God, I cannot imagine having to read more than one of these books. I hated this book. I DNF'd it. It was my worst book of 2019. And I think I figured out that Catherine M. Valenti's writing style is it just doesn't work for me. I've tried 2 of her books now, and both of them, I love the ideas, but the writing is just like my eyeballs reject it. It's a problem. And then last is another YA high fantasy, and that is the Mirror Visitor City series from Christelle DeBeau. And I think my problem here, I read 2 books in the series because there's a lot in this that I do like. Like, I like the political intrigue. I like some of the characters, not all of them. And the plot stuff worked for me. The world building worked for me. But it's a YA book that to me reads like a middle grade prose style. And some of the things that happen are just not appropriate for middle grade. And so that was taking me out of things. So I ended up DNFing in the middle of the second book. It just is a little off for me. I tried to be generous and think, oh, maybe, it's translated from French. Maybe the translation is just not the best. But if you read the reviews of people who've read it in the original language, they also have noted that the writing style is kind of weird. And I think for some people it really works. For me, it just didn't. And there wasn't enough meat for me to get through that second book. So I DNF'd it, and I will not be continuing in that series. So I think that's all of them. Whew. Okay, so that was a bunch of books we just covered. Yeah, I'm sure at least one of those was one of your faves. I apologize for that. I mean, the reality is I'm always excited when somebody enjoys what they read. Even if I hate the book, unless I think there's something like morally repugnant about it, I'm so happy when other people enjoy things that didn't work for me, because I want people to like what they're reading and I want people to read. These are books or series that I'm not going to keep going in, because for one reason or another, I either got what I needed from what I've read in the series so far, or it just didn't fully work for me. And everybody's different, so there you go. But I hope that was interesting or helpful for those of you who either have very similar or opposite tastes for me. You've either found things that you definitely don't want to read or things you definitely do. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know the last series that you decided that you were not going to continue in. Let me know that in the comments below. And yeah, I think that will do it for now. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you're so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today. And I will just talk to you soon. Bye.